Peace, Great King Black State. Coming to you with the second video. And today we're gonna expound on our last video, which was talking about the state of Delaware and how we can create Black State of America, create a Black state majority within the state of Delaware in order to establish Black majority voter rule over the state of Delaware. In the first video, I explained that I am the author of a book that is entitled Black State of America, Black Reparations, Civil Rights 2.0, and that is by RSLDJ. I'm going to try to get it to where you can actually see that clearly. If you put that into your search, that book will come up. There is a white cover and a black cover. The information inside is the same. So the last time I gave general information about the state of Delaware. Well, the state of Delaware has 3 counties, a northern, a central, and a southern county. To give greater detail to the process of Black migration to the state of Delaware, which is surrounded by 5 or 6 major metropolitan areas. It is a commuter state, which means you could live in the state of Delaware, vote in the state of Delaware, but you can drive an hour outside of Delaware in order to be employed and to earn higher wages if you have the qualifications to meet those jobs that are within an hour's drive. For most of us, an hour's commute is probably standard. In certain areas of the country, larger metropolitans, it's probably an hour and a half. Definitely in the NYC area, they're probably doing hour and a half to 2-hour commutes. From what I understand, in the LA area as well, they have some pretty long commutes. However, Delaware, I believe, has a train system, which and a good bus transportation system, which would cut down significantly on those commute times. Depending on, again, where you worked, you could work in the state of Delaware, you could live in the state of Delaware, but if you are seeking different opportunities, you could live and vote, and this is the most important part: voting and living in the state of Delaware, establishing residency and establishing your voting registration so that you can participate in this process. So in the middle county, we need Black voters. You must be an American citizen. You must be 18 years of age or older. We prefer that you be a Black American, a direct descendant of our enslaved ancestors, so that we can produce candidates that are going to benefit Black Americans, specifically benefit Black Americans, candidates who have a Black first agenda, who really only seek to provide equity across the board, across the entire state, in every area of state function, county function, and city function, including school board function, and in the justice system, essentially to create fairness and equity across the entire state, so that there are not pockets where people who have, significant more resources, they're more wealthy, they can provide better lives for themselves while everyone else suffers. We will eliminate that. We will make it so that the state ensures across the board equity, opportunities in home ownership, loans for business startups, for home loans, for educational loans. The goal is to not only re-engineer the state constitution, but to actually rewrite the state constitution for many reasons. Provide equity, to codify Black American citizenship as a birthright in the state of Delaware, and as much as it extends to the United States of America. Now, a state constitution cannot dictate what the United States Constitution recognizes or does, but we can codify it on the state level, and that would affect county and city as well across the state. We want to create a protected environment with state authority, state power, state constitutional power, sovereign state power, states' rights power for Black Americans, to give that authority to our people so that our people no longer have to suffer under the current system, which is really set up for the white majority. And as long as we remain a Black minority scattered across this country, we will never have real political power. This is the way the system has been set up. This is why they terrorize Black people and force them to move from the South, even though 50% or so stayed in the South, remained in the South. Those who left under tyranny, and the reason was they didn't want us to become a majority. We were a majority in 1, 2, or 3 states. We were certainly a majority in multiple counties, and they did not want us to figure out how America works, figure out that if we are the majority, we should have say. Not only should we have say, we should have authority over that say, and we should be able to dictate terms to the white minority. So again, this is why we must become a Black majority in this country. And so let's focus a little bit more on Delaware in terms of each county. The middle county, the central county, currently requires 75,000 new Black voters. Just 75,000 new Black voters to establish a majority Black county in the state of Delaware. 75,000 is the number. That is an extremely small number. It will set a precedent because this has never occurred where Black Americans moved in a singular direction, migrated in a singular direction with a single purpose of establishing a Black majority. This is significant. Okay, so how can you help? How can you get involved? Well, that is the second step in the process. The first step is just grasping what we need to do, how we go about it, and then we move on to the second step. So we certainly need your help. We need all those who are willing, able to move, to potentially bring businesses, bring intelligence, bring creativity, bring all the positive attributes, bring hard work. We need workers, we need builders, we need scientists, we need doctors, we need lawyers, we need educators, we need people, Black Americans who desire a better life and a better future, not just for themselves or their children, but for the next 10 generations of Black Americans. This is not about us today, although as we move together, we will immediately reap the benefits of political Black majority status in this country, in the state of Delaware. However, our goal is to establish a permanent political base, permanent political Black majority, so that we are passing down this authority and power and this educational curriculum that we will change to become Black-centric education, so that the history taught in schools in the state of Delaware will focus on Black American history, true Black American history, not the history that they force feed us to pacify us. So this is why this is extremely important, because it's not just about today. This is literally about the next 200, 300, 400 years of black existence on this land, in this country. So again, the central county only needs 75,000 new black voters. The central county is home to Dover, Delaware. It is also home to Delaware State University, black HBCU. So for anybody who has ambitions of going to college, anyone who's a black retiree, instead of going to a southern, a much southern state, think about coming to the state of Delaware. Think about moving to the state of Delaware to at least help us establish the black majority. And then within a couple of years, you can move out if that is your choice. We need people to basically commit to a few election cycles, because that's essentially what it'll take. A few election cycles to establish black majority rule, where we put in our black first, black agenda candidates into positions of authority, county executive, and everything in between, county sheriff, if there's any judgeships that come up for ballot, school board elections, cities across the county. We want to run in every single possible election and guaranteed wins, because we have established this majority vote, 60+%, which is above the margin of error, which means they cannot win. And when white people know they cannot win, they have two reactions. Usually by default, they perform white flight. They just sell everything and they leave. And I believe they'll put their house up for sale, but they'll leave prior to the sale. They'll just want to get out. I believe that'll be their initial reaction to it. The other reaction is to get angry, get upset, and try to become an obstacle. And we are willing and ready to deal with that. That is not a deterrent. We don't live in fear. We live in power and authority and purpose. And we will not let these people be an obstacle to us anymore. That is the point of a black migration. It is to eliminate them as an obstacle for our children's sake, for our great-grandchildren, or great-great-great-great-great-grandchildren. So this information, it is a revolutionary, radical, political strategy that we must employ before it's too late, because there will come a time when it will be too late, where the Hispanics, the Asians will have instituted this strategy, and they will already have taken over all of these states. And then we will be left alone with no power, with no authority, begging them to protect us. Now, we've been here long enough to know that no one here is ever going to protect black Americans. No legislation will protect us, because legislation is reactionary. Hate crime bills are reactionary. They enforce them after a person is harmed, after a person is killed. Legislation can't stop bullets. Legislation can't stop you if some psychopathic person decides to, drive a tractor trailer through a high school football game. Legislation is not the answer. It is temporary at best. A different administration will come in and defund, delegitimize, and or a constitutional challenge in court will do the same. Or they'll simply ignore the law, as they do with many laws. There are thousands of laws on the books that the United States of America does not enforce. They'll simply ignore it. So legislation, while it seems like it'll help, it'll be temporary at best. It's not something that creates permanence. It's not something that creates a situation where we can live freely amongst white society and everything will be okay, because it won't be okay. It'll be the same, if not worse. I believe things are getting worse in this country by most measures. I believe most people understand that who are paying attention. If you're not paying attention, then you're just watching TV, being programmed by movies, TV, and celebrity culture and reality culture and TikTok culture. But if you stop to pay attention and you unplug from all of that mental poison, that spiritual poison, you will see and understand things are getting much worse. And we have to do something radically different in order to ensure that we can essentially put a dam up, or put up a wall, and a wall that's impenetrable, a force shield, if you will, so that they cannot simply willy-nilly cause harm to our people as a society, aka the drug war. Pumping drugs and poison into our communities through drugs themselves, through music, through TV, through all these forms of mental, spiritual, and physical harm that we can recognize quickly, and put an end to it. In white society, we can't stop it because they won't let us stop it. The reason why black communities falter and fail, one, they divest from us. They divested from every major black community in this country, especially in the North, and every major black city, and black county, if there are majority black counties in the North. And the other thing they do is they prevent us from stopping crime from occurring. So we don't even have the authority to stop the crime if we wanted to, because they want the crime to keep going. They want the crime to occur. They understand how crime destroys our communities. They pull all the money out, so there's no investment anymore, so no businesses are developed. We can't feed and employ our own people. This is the way white America works. This is the way the society is set up for us to fail, to keep us as a bottom caste, bottom class member of society, so that we are always begging them to help us. We are always in a dependent position, and we need to end that. We need to stop, stand up, and say enough is enough, and just simply move together in a concentrated manner, so that we can put an end to that. This is extremely important. So building back on the counties, we get the middle county with roughly 75,000 new black voters. Then we focus on the northern county, where Wilmington, which is the largest city in the state of Delaware, it's along the I-95 corridor. I-95 corridor runs from Maine, the tip of Maine, I'm assuming, all the way down to the tip of Florida. This is a major artery, a major transportation hub. There are infinite business opportunities when you are living on a major transportation hub such as that. This is also why it's a great commuter state, because you can travel to different states and different cities, because Delaware is bordered by 3 or 4 states, and like I said, 5 or 6 major metropolitan areas within commuter's distance, depending on the form of transportation that you decide to take. But again, as long as you live and vote and are registered in the state of Delaware, that's what we need. So we certainly invite those who live in New Jersey, black Americans who live in New Jersey, to exodus, to leave the state of New Jersey. There's absolutely nothing there for good, hardworking, positive black people. Move out of the state of New Jersey, move into the state of Delaware. Black people who live in the state of Pennsylvania, another horrible, horrible, horrible state for black Americans, hardworking black Americans. Move out of the state of Philadelphia, or the state of Pennsylvania rather, the city of Philadelphia and the surrounding areas, and move into Delaware. Move out of New York City. How many millions of black people live in New York City, the 5 boroughs, where the price of everything is soaring and soaring and soaring. Move out of New York City and move into the state of Delaware. There are literally 3 times as many, if not 5 times as many people in those 3 areas to take over the state of Delaware. We just need a little bit from New York City, a little bit from New Jersey, and a little bit from the Philadelphia area. And that's plenty to take over this state. Black Delaware, the Black Diamond State. We don't want the thugs. We don't want the savages. We don't want the thoughts, the strippers, the prostitutes. We want good, hard working people. Hard-working black men and women and their children, so we can build and establish essentially a black state, essentially a black nation. We will remain a part of the United States of America as long as that is healthy, beneficial, and something that we can do without conflict. But if it ever gets to a point in time that they produce and create conflict for us, then we need to be prepared to defend our black state. That is a part of this. There's a black gun group. I don't know the name off the top of my head, but you can search and find it. In the state of Delaware, there certainly could be many more black gun clubs. There could be black-owned gun stores or gun manufacturers who could relocate into the state of Delaware. We need brilliant minds. Brilliant minds. And when we are allowed to, and not just allowed to, but when we are protected with black state authority who protects our intelligent black children and our black adults, they will be able to limitlessly use their intelligence and wisdom to advance our society far beyond anyone else on the planet. I sincerely, firmly, unequivocally know for a fact that if allowed, and again, allowed, I don't want to use that word, but if protected, because when they are protected by black state authority, they absolutely will have the ability to use their creativity, their ingenuity, their inventiveness to move us far beyond every other civilization on the planet. This is why this is so important. This is why this is something that must happen, and it must happen quickly. 75,000 to take over the central state, and then moving to the northern state. There's a lot more people, so it requires a lot more people, right? A lot more people requires a lot more people. When people talk about Georgia, well, guess what? Georgia requires a lot more people. A lot more people. Okay? Whereas the northern county in Delaware just requires a lot more people. Roughly 200,000. Roughly 200,000 new black voters who move into the northern county. Again, where Wilmington, Delaware is the main big city. They will establish a second majority black county in a state that only has 3 counties. So if a state has 3 counties and you control 2/3, you obviously are in a position to control the entire state. And this is what the strategy is. And once this is proven, not just on paper, but it's proven in a real world, real scenario, it can be copied and repeated in these states. Like, again, mentioned in Georgia. Georgia has nearly 150 counties. So again, if we're comparing apples to bananas, because they're not even close, Delaware has 3 counties, essentially with 275,000 new black voters. We control 2/3 of the state, which I believe will allow us to control the state. There may be a few offices in that 3rd county that we don't control initially, but because we control so much of the state, we will be able to assert our will. And then the final obvious path is to take over that southern county, which requires another 200,000 black voters. And those numbers are like give and take 10% or so. It could be 175, 180. Instead of 75, it could be as low as 60,000. It's really about trying to establish a majority that it can't be denied in a ballot, in a vote. If the margin of error is 2 or 3%, then those numbers come down a little bit. We try to be 10% above the current white voting population, so that there is no ability, so that we know going in the art of war, you win the war before you fire a single shot. And we are not talking about firing shots. We are talking about winning the war before we even engage in it, so that we know going in we are victorious. As soon as the first black migrationist moves into the state of Delaware, they know they are already victorious. Okay? And like I said, this process can be repeated in the much larger states. If you start with the lowest counties first, you start with the lowest counties, you overwhelm and you take over that county, and then you take over the next county and the next county and the next county. And because in different states, because they got 50, 60, 100, 150, you can be a little bit more strategic about which counties you decide to take over. But again, the process really should be very similar. Start at the lowest number and work your way up. And this is why Delaware, in the grand scheme of things, is following that model, because it is the lowest number to take over a state, which is less than 500,000 people total. But like I said, I believe once you get north of 300,000 spread proportionately throughout 3 counties, we will be in control of the state. Like I said, they may have a few straggling, surviving positions that they hold, but they won't hold them for long. And the other important part of this is there are election cycles, and so the way that we take over is through the election cycles, be they every 2 years, every 4 years, whatever their election cycles are. And so it'll be a situation where we're waiting to vote our people in, guaranteed victories, and then we take over and we start assessing, reviewing, and tearing down whatever they've been doing for the past 300-400 years, however long the state of Delaware has existed. Because even though the United States was established in 1776 and in 1787 and all these, official dates, certainly these colonies date back prior to that, and there more than likely is a lot of documentation of things that occurred prior to the establishment of the country, establishment of the states, and when they were colonies as well. So we need to be able to get into the nuts and bolts, review, and then for all my reparationists out there, then we have a bona fide, airtight, sealed case against the United States government. Not only that, but we have real black state authority to force reparations for the people in our state. Now, let me be clear. Let me be very clear when I say that. For the migrationists who are de-integrationists, but also reparationists, we will have the political authority not to go to Washington and protest and march around in circles and write our congressmen and flood their emails and chase them down on social media and chase them down at their public events. No, we will have actual legal authority in the Senate and in the Congress. And we'll have a governor. So if that doesn't get your juices flowing, if hearing that information doesn't excite you, then you're probably not a candidate for Black State of America. You're probably not someone who is someone that we can depend on, to be perfectly honest. And that's okay, because the reality is we don't think 100% of Black America is ready to govern ourselves or govern themselves. We know it's a small percentage of the population, and we're okay with that. And we're simply looking for the people who are ready, who are willing, and what is your part? So at blackstateofamerica.com, there is merchandise, hats like this. In the last video, I was wearing a t-shirt. There are hoodies, there are unisex hoodies, there are female specific hoodies. I try to add different updated designs. Sometimes, a couple of times a month. I'm still need to add the Amazon link for the merchandise. But we will do that very, very soon. If you haven't seen it on Amazon yet, it is coming. But it is available at blackstateofamerica.com. The book is available on Amazon and other book retailers. And that's the Black State of America book. Black State of America book, Black Reparations, Civil Rights 2.0. And that's written by RSLDJ. In order to pick up that book, because that is the black print, written in 2018 and then self-published in 2019. And so your part is this: we are going to establish either a donor box and or some other mechanism whereby which you can become a subscriber. The thought of putting in $1 a week is affordable for anybody and everybody. Anybody and everybody can afford $1 a week. If you are a hardworking Black American in this country and you believe in a future, not only for yourself, but for your children, for your grandchildren, for your great-grandchildren, for your nieces and nephews, for Black Americans, period, $1 a week is not a large ask at all. It's essentially $52 for a year. $52 for the year. So we will establish that and have an option to where you can become an annual member for $52 and or $1 a week. We would certainly appreciate if you could do $10 a week, because the more the merrier, and the more money that we have access to, certainly the quicker we can move towards this goal. This is the goal. This should have always been the goal, really, since I'll give us a buffer time of 5 years after civil rights legislation. So I'll say by 1970, Black America, which I believe right around that time we had there was this large national convention where, you know, a lot of black leaders came together, and they tried to formulate a strategy. And it's very likely that there were some members there who had a strategy similar to the one that I'm discussing. Similar but different. And similar only in the fact that they may have discussed similar states in the Black Belt South. But certainly not this, because if they had this plan, you know, 50 plus years ago, it would have been done by now. Anybody who doubts that just doesn't understand this plan. I've laid it out. I've been very detailed. You know, I spent a lot of time on social media, so I've been challenged by people who weren't necessarily sincere, but just challenged because that's what trolls do. That's what people do online. However, I use all their negative energy to produce positive results. And that has to be the difference between us and them, is that they intentionally produce negative energy because it drives likes, it drives engagement. You know, they feel better about themselves, etc., etc. But I believe in universal law. God is the universe. Universe is God. I believe in karma. I do not believe in coincidences. I understand that the energy you put out returns back to you. You send out negative energy returns. So we only desire to send out positive energy, purposeful energy, so that positive and purposeful energy returns back to the black state of America. Okay, so back in the 1970s, when Black America really they were at a crossroads where they could delve deeper into integration, which is decimation for Black America. When you think about integration, if you don't think about decimation of Black America, and let me say that again, when you think about integration and you don't also think about the decimation of Black America, you simply are lost. You're not educated enough. You don't understand what is going on all around you. And it's not your fault. It's intentional. It's the dumbing down of Black America, as they say. It is the intentional, willful deception, so that we are taught to believe and to think that is all our fault, that we are lazy or we can't do it, or the white man is holding us down, or a lot of these stereotypical narratives. The reality is that they intentionally devised a system to keep us at the bottom. That is the result. If the system was designed to keep us in the middle, we would be in the middle. But we're not. We're at the bottom of the society. Period. That can't be argued. We will stay at the bottom, but it'll get worse if we do not radically change our political strategies. Again, this does not require 100% of Black America. For the state of Delaware, we're talking about 1 to 2% of the population, of our population. Everything that I say, I'm talking about us. Unless I mention white people directly, or white society, or white America, I'm talking about us. I'm talking about Black Americans. Not all Black Americans want to stay in America, so they say. A lot of Black Americans say they want to go somewhere else. I offer them $100. Start a GoFundMe page. I'll put up the first $100 because I want you to be where you want to be. Sincerely. Don't want you around us if you don't want to be here. But for everyone else that actually does want to be here, that knows that this is the land that our ancestors fought for, died for, built upon, or the only reason that America is in the position that it is in today, and that stretches back 300 plus years, that our ancestors did that, created that. Without them, it was impossible. Without them, to be perfectly honest, they wouldn't have survived here. They would not have survived without our ancestors here in America. So, for those who want to leave, I say, hey, I support you in your choices, but I'm staying here. I'm going to be buried here. The only difference is I sincerely desire and will bring to fruition a black state, a black majority state, a state where our future children will inherit power and protection because they will live in a black majority state as well. And they will understand through education that they must keep it that way, that they have to protect it daily. This is extreme. This is why you got to take over the whole entire system so that not only can you protect your children, but you can educate your children through a system that is eternal. We have to stop thinking of temporary fixes, things that are minor in the long grand scheme of things. They're minuscule. Legislation is minuscule in the grand scheme of things if you don't control that legislation permanently. We need permanence. We need permanent control. That is the only way we can ensure, and this is the only way really that our sacrifice is worth migrating and moving to a new state where we don't know the people there. We don't know the cultural, unique regional dialect and or styles and or foods, etc., etc. We will go, we will move, we will learn, we will take over. And there's nothing that's going to stop us or hold us back. So that is part 2 of the Delaware takeover. And your part, again, is to not only to become a supporter of the movement. The movement will post weekly updates of, hey, this is how much, just like a New York Stock Exchange details the value of a stock. Black State of America has value. It has extreme value. It's actually priceless to our people. And you will see a weekly detailing of the value of how much money is in that stock, if you will. We're using the word stock, quote unquote, but it's a movement. It's a political movement. It's a political campaign. So you'll get a weekly update as to how much money is in that pot. And when we spend a single penny, you will know where we spent it on and why we spent it on. And some of these choices will be up for vote. I envision a day when I can buy a used RV, wrap it in Black State, slogans and material, have pamphlets to pass out, and travel through the state of New Jersey, travel into the New York City 5 boroughs, travel around the city of Philadelphia, and disseminate the information while living in the state of Delaware. This is my future vision. Documenting it all, establishing a Black State of America party, and actively supporting candidates to run for these local positions, starting with that middle county in the state of Delaware. This is the way the process should happen, organically, connecting with Black roots organizations that are already on the ground, already in the state of Delaware, and helping them understand our vision so that they can adopt our vision and it can become a connected vision across the state. And this includes Black religious organizations, Black charitable organizations, 501c3s, etc., etc. As long as they understand we are anti-demon rat party. We are anti Black abortion. It's genocidal. It's population control. It has no benefit for us. The only benefit is for them. Period. It does not benefit us in any way, shape, or form. We are pro black baby adoption. We are pro rehabilitation of our incarcerated brothers and sisters so that they can re-enter society and play a positive role in our society. We are pro rehabilitation for our black homeless brothers and sisters. In fact, I believe recent figures had the black population north of 500,000. Now, if we could gather up 500,000 black homeless people, even, they could take over the state of Delaware simply by registering the vote, moving to Delaware and registering the vote. We have a vital duty, calling, and a need to care for our people, the people who are really truly at the bottom of society. I believe that with all my heart, and I know the universe is calling me for that purpose. And we got to get control over the state budgets, because we not only will have the state budget, we'll have the federal appropriation that goes to that state. And we can eliminate all the corruption, all the wasteful spending, all the monumental spending that they're repaving the same roads every year in the white neighborhoods. They're building water parks that no one attends. They're building monuments in the middle of some national quote unquote state park that no one ever goes to, that does nothing for the people themselves. They're building monuments to themselves using black taxpayer money. And this is another extremely important part of why we need to get this permanent control over black states that have a relatively low population but a relatively high black population. It is because we have never had control over our black tax base. They have always controlled black tax dollars perpetually, at a time when they controlled 100% of black money, because they were not compensating us for our labor for several centuries. But they plan to, this is their plan, this is their goal, this is the way their system is set up, to control our black tax dollars forever, perpetually, forever into the future, forever and ever and ever. They have no plan, no desire to ever turn over the money that we earn and we pay to the state and federal government to our control. We are tax-paying slaves. We have been tax-paying slaves, again, at 100% in the past. Today it's closer to like 30%. But again, it's 30% of our earned income combined that we have no say over what happens to it. And the black faces who claim to represent us don't even do that, because they have 80 million non-black people to focus all of their advocacy on. They give us holidays and they give them actual legislation that they keep in place and that they do enforce. See, anyone who thinks that they're going to put in legislation for us and then actually enforce it and then actually keep it in place, they're delusional. They're fooling themselves. They are lying to themselves. They're believing their own lies. And then they're spewing those lies all over your eardrums. But we know these people. These people are not going to change. They haven't changed. They're never going to change. They are who we thought they were. See, and I've had discussions with members of white society, and when I talk like this, they express the fact that they think I'm speaking harshly. I'm speaking critically of them. I'm not. I'm being very honest and direct about who these people are. Unfortunately, because the society coddles them. It literally coddles them like they are little children and they can get and have whatever they want. They've never heard honest, direct assessment of who they are as a people. We know who they are, and we have politicians who kowtow to them and who essentially tell them it's not their fault. But it is their fault. They're the ones who did it. They're the ones who are in control. When isolated incidents occur where unfortunately many of them or pass away because of unfortunate events, they have no one to blame but themselves. Like, quite honestly, they are in control of every part of this society. There's literally not a significant portion of the society that they don't control. They control it all. So if anything happens in the society, they are to blame. And we got to stop letting them get off the hook and trying to blame other things. They have a million excuses for why things happen. And then whenever we're involved, of course, we get the lion's share of the blame. We get full blame, and then they try to transfer that blame onto every other black individual or person. And we gotta just nip that in the bud. Be honest, be direct, tell them who they are, show them who they are with factual information about exactly who they are. Black state of America. This is a new wave. This is something different. If you've watched the first video and now you are taking time to watch this video, you get it. You understand. This is different. This is not that. That is not this. We need 75,000 ready and willing supporters who are going to pledge and who are actually going to physically enter their information into a trusted source, a political campaign source that says $1 a week. And we live in a state of we live in America, so you have to be an American citizen. We cannot accept any foreign donations, and we don't want any foreign donations. We want Black Americans to donate. We don't obviously don't want any corporate quote unquote sponsorship. We are not a 501c3. We will never become a 501c3 because we understand that relationship is totally corrupted and creates a puppet organization for the United States government, and really all for a few tax breaks. If we're being somewhat honest, I'll pay those taxes to quote unquote Uncle Sam for sovereignty. Especially in this political arena, the last thing we need is another 501c3 Black organization that is catering their message to satisfy corporate interest. That's how you become co-opted. That's how you end up, purchasing yourself a $5 million mansion and an early retirement from the organization that you claim to have started, even though it was a grassroots organization and you simply attached your name to it. And because you had, a higher profile and you had connections to money, white money at that, you were able to take all the credit for it. We are not that, and we will never become that, because that's not what this is about. This is about establishing Black authority, Black state authority, permanent Black majority status in one state to prove the model, and then going from one state to two states, to two states to three states, as far as we can take it. I'll talk about the other states in the next video, because that's a broader conversation. However, I after being deeply entrenched in this for 3 years, I am fully under the impression and under the analysis that we really must focus on one state at a time, and it needs to be the smallest possible number of migrationists moving into a state in order to flip the state into a black state, as they say. So I appreciate you for listening. If you held in this long, I appreciate you for preparing yourself mentally and spiritually to give to this cause. And I 1000% appreciate those who are preparing themselves to mentally, physically make this migration happen. If you are anywhere in the northern half of the United States, which is north of Tennessee, Kentucky especially, Wisconsin especially, Illinois, Michigan, Minnesota, those states in particular, if you are in those states or you know of people in those states, please get those people watching and listening and understanding this strategy, because if there are states that black people need to get out of, Minnesota, Wisconsin, Kentucky, in my opinion, are the top three, because we are a super minority in those states. We have absolutely no power, no authority, and we never will. And the police are just decimating our population in those states. Wisconsin has the highest arrest rate of black men in the country. It's just, and we know what happened in Minnesota, obviously, over the past several years. And we got to get out of those states. We have to we literally should be forming an exodus. If we got to walk to get out of those states, we got to get out of those states. And the population in those three states is roughly a million plus. And they could, I'm talking about another state, they could take over effectively the state of Mississippi. With the population in those three states, black voters migrating to the state of Mississippi all together in unison for this one purpose, they could take over the state of Mississippi. And this is the way that we have to think. There's a celebrity New York transplant to Georgia book author and reporter, and I believe he's a news anchor on a newly created black news network, and he wrote a book that details a similar theory, it was an interesting read. Learned a lot about the people that he's met over his years in that world. And I support the book because the book not only does it get the information out there and help more of our people to start thinking in this direction, but it also touches on some well crafted research, which is important. The data is important, and I believe his heart is in the right place, minus the demon rat propaganda, because there is no way in hell that we should continue this lopsided, truly satanic relationship that we have with the demon rat party. They are not our friends. They will never ever be friends of black people, and it's going to take some separation for us to realize that, because many of us we just got blue brains. Our brains have been so brainwashed with hate everything red and love everything blue, and that's a sickness, that's a mental spiritual illness. And we gotta let it go. It's like the Django image of Samuel Jackson holding on to Leonardo DiCaprio. Man, we have got to let that demon rat party go. We simply gotta let it go. We need independent Black State of America, independent Black Party that is focused 100% on Black American issues and nothing else and nobody else, period. And so much to the point that while we establish these offices and establish this party, and we're sitting in debates and or interviews, and they say, well, there's a large ethnic population of whatevers. If they're not Black Americans, to be perfectly honest, the answer is Black Americans have been on our own in this country for centuries. It is time for inter-ethnic group here for them to be on their own and figure it out for themselves. Because the Black State of America political party is only concerned with Black American issues. That's it. And we need 75,000 Black Americans who feel and think the same way to prepare to move and migrate to the central county of the state of Delaware ASAP, expeditiously, as fast as we can, and with no hesitation and with no regret. Now here's the last thing I'll leave you with, because there's fear of leaving our home state and our home city and our high school that we went to and our football team that we love, and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. There's that fear. And as someone stated, I respect the fact that you want to stay, where you were born at. I get it. I respect it. It's kind of detrimental to this strategy, but I know that not everybody is built for this. We only want the people that are actually built for this. So that's one part. The other part is you can move to the state of Delaware. You can migrate. You could register to vote. You could vote. You could help us get, a couple of candidates in place. And then after a year or 2 or 3 or 4 or 5, you could leave. Like, you can always go back to where you consider to be home. You don't own anything. Maybe you own a house. Maybe you got several properties. But you don't, like I know, because I own several properties. You don't really own anything. You don't own that team. You don't own that city. You don't own that neighborhood. They do. They own it all. They control it all. The difference in a Black state is we own it all. We control it all. Now there's laws, of course, and there's civilized society, of course, but we will create conditions for Black business to thrive. We will create conditions for equity in loaning, equity in opportunities, in education, and in state contracts. You understand? If you are in a construction trade and you've always wondered, well, how do I get these contracts? I own a couple of dump trucks. How do I get contracts? Or I'd like to own a couple of garbage trucks. How do I get that contract? Well, we will create open bidding, equitable processes where we're not catering to whatever the established order is. We are going to be 100% disruptive to the established order. That is the point. That literally is the point, is to create equity. So there is no established order. There's just equity. There's just equity. And that's something that Black Americans do not have. We've never experienced. And another reason why this is so important, for us to have equity. But okay, on that note, Black State of America, thank you. Appreciate you for listening. Check for the next video. Like, subscribe, repost, join blabbar.com at Gray King Black State. I look forward to watching those donations come in. I look forward to posting the amount weekly in those donation in the donation pool, and establishing the Black State of America Party, getting it registered with all the necessary regulatory boards, and like I said, my vision to move to Delaware and to disseminate the information in person physically as well as online, and start building these networks with people who currently reside in the state of Delaware who we can have as our candidates. Peace.